March 14th, 2012, my son Thomas lost his battle with the disease of addiction. I now belong to a club that no parent should ever belong to. Do you know the signs? Do you know the trends that children are doing in today's world? Do you know the signs and symptoms? Do you know the signs and symptoms of drug abuse? I want to empower and educate Long Islanders by bringing a force of professionals and how to prevent the disease of addiction. Long Island in Crisis. Good evening and welcome to Long Island in Crisis. This show is dedicated to empowering parents and family members of people struggling with the disease of addiction. We, especially on Long Island, have an epidemic that a family will wake up every day without a loved one. In the United States, it's a pandemic, so we all have to step up and do our part. I lost my son on March 14, 2012, and I don't wish dealing with the struggle of the disease of addiction with a loved one, and especially you never want to be a member of the club that I belong to. And tonight I have two very special guests. I have Anthony Ferradino from Northport School District, who is the substance treatment person right in the school, which is unbelievable. And then we have Lisa Gans from Long Island Council on Alcohol and Drug, and Claudia Ragni and I were pushing you guys last week.
Cool.
You are a not-for-profit for in your 65th year.
60th year.
60th year of helping Long Islanders find treatment at no cost to them.
Correct.
Until they get to treatment, of course. That goes without saying. So I know we were talking, let's talk prevention. How are we getting around this, or through it, or over it?
Well, we got to get ahead of it, and I think that's the biggest issue.
And we are so far behind it.
We are so far behind it, and we're fighting an uphill battle. And, talking about it just from the aspect of a school district, the first things that get cut are your social emotional programming. Yes. And particularly when you have all of these, academics and these standardized testing and a Common Core and whatever else it is, depending on what level you're at, a math assessment or whatever, the first thing that gets cut is the social emotional programming. So, bringing in evidence-based programming is becoming much more of a challenge for us.
I would, though, say to my school board, and I do believe I have, if a child is high and or dead as a senior in high school, they're not going to really do well on standardized testing.
Absolutely.
So is it our goal to only have kids come out able to take a test, or are we raising well-adjusted, and that's the key word there, well-adjusted, able to cope young adults willing to face the world?
That's right. Without social emotional, you're not going to have the academic piece anyway. It doesn't matter if it's they're using drugs or they just can't manage stress.
Yeah.
And they're having anxiety.
Yes.
Right. We're in about 85 different schools at LICAD, which took a lot of marketing and effort over 60 years.
Yeah.
But 85 schools across Long Island. And we're not just talking about drugs, although that's important. We're talking about the social emotional piece. How do you manage stress? How do you deal with anxiety? How do you live in this digital world in a way that's healthier and make healthier choices and manage, impulse control, decision making,
which, by the way, children don't have.
We have to teach them.
Yes.
So it takes a lot of effort, but a lot of schools on Long Island are starting to come around. But it's really about, connecting with schools about why this is important. Yeah. If you have a kid who can take tests, great. But if you have a kid who can't because they can't even come to school when they have test anxiety, or, someone says, take a Xanax and you'll get through your test, that's not really going to work long term. Yeah. And, it's a really competitive world that kids are living in now, whether it's college, whether it's sports, whether it's, do the clubs and get the highest grades and be the best all the time.
And work.
And, you're on constant 24-hour display on social media, which is a
Yes.
whole other added stress. So
That's right.
if we're not teaching them how to live in this world and manage this world, I mean, that's great. You can pass every science class and every math class that you have, but if you can't sit down and have an interview, if you can't get to work,
Yes.
you know, what's the depression, the anxiety, we got to talk about that stuff too. Luckily, LICAD has a really good reputation for that. We're in 85 schools, including Northport. We work really closely with the
Yeah.
area. And that's how we do this together. Communities, CBOs,
Communities
families,
together.
schools.
Yes.
That's
Parents need to be taught.
Mm-hmm.
Children
Right.
need to be taught.
100%.
You know, everything works together.
Yes.
So I remember my daughter in my school district, which is Kings Park, when she was little. She went from elementary school in 5th grade to the middle school. Was bizarre, and I had to
Right.
give her an awful lot of information because I couldn't have this cute little 10-year-old hearing things on the bus and have the deer in the headlights
Yeah.
look. But we went from such a enclosed environment, protected, to you have a locker and you're going to switch classes. And
right.
I went up and said, are you teaching them organizational skills or study skills? Well, no, that's not what do you mean that's not she's 10. So are all these other kids, and they're with 14-year-olds, which in and of itself is a little crazy. They have since changed that.
Sure.
But this is the world that they're thrown into.
Right.
And people just assume, oh, they'll figure it out.
Which is not really what's happening right now.
And we
Which
know
is not what's-
transitions are high-risk times, whether
Yes.
it's middle school to high school, elementary school to middle school, high school to college, you know, so we do those programs as well,
right.
transitions
But
program,
the
college prep.
transition is huge because it
Yeah.
only takes one person. I'm sure if I asked the two of you, what teacher made the best positive influence on you and what teacher made, you're going to certainly remember the negative.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Because that sticks with you. So it only takes one kid to say something to another child that will destroy them.
Right, and again, to piggyback on what we said before, I mean, you got to be your kid's Google. Like,
Yes.
if you're a parent, I always say, be your kid's Google, because the first thing they hear that they don't know, oh, I'm going to Google it and see what it is. And, you know, if it's something that's not so appropriate, they might end up seeing something that's not accurate or
Correct.
very traumatizing. So really important, too, for parents to be okay talking about this stuff. No more are the days of, not my kid, or, oh, when you're older. We'll
Right.
talk about that, because
no.
you got and if they have cell phones in their pocket at, in elementary school age, they're going to find out some way, and it really should come from you first.
Well, Anthony, you have kids. So, but I
Right.
even thinking when I see 10-year-olds and you say, oh my God, they're such babies. And they are, but they are a wealth of information. And the things that you think they don't know, they know a little bit more than you do.
They know a lot more. And
Yeah.
when I used to, I was pushing down into the 5th grade classes. I was teaching a curriculum, Too Good for Drugs, in
Yes.
Northport. And I was nervous because I never worked with 5th graders before. I worked with high schoolers, and so I was like, I'm going to talk over them. They're not going to get it. And let me tell you how quickly that changed when I started going into the class and what they did know. And what they didn't know, they were able to ask get the information.
Because they're at the perfect age that they're
That's right.
really not inhibited to ask you.
That's right. And that's another great point that Lisa just made about how we have to give them the information because they're going to get it from somewhere else, whether it's on the internet or it's to ask one of their
Friends.
friends.
Older brother, sister.
Older brother, right. Marijuana is harmless because it's going to be legal, so that means I can smoke it and nothing bad is going to happen to me.
Right.
Right.
That's
And
the
I'm
message
9.
they'll get from somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
That's the message they'll get somewhere else. That's what we're seeing right now, and that's the kind of conversations I have in my office. I'm trying to undo a lot of that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, the media portrays it as it's nothing.
Sure.
There are states that have legalized it now. Awesome.
Right.
In the midst of an epidemic, let's legalize it because
That's right.
it just adds fuel to the fire.
Add another drug to the that's going to be out there, and it's already accessible.
It's already accessible. It's already accessible,
So
and they know way too
we have
much.
to do a lot more work around the messaging around marijuana.
Yeah.
I mean, we've always done it, but now it's a different world. We need a different message that's going to really explain.
Also, I think parents, your 8, 9, 10-year-old does not need a smartphone. Absolutely. You want them to be in contact with you? They can have just a phone that they can call you on and or just text you on. And or
Right.
radical thought, you should know that they're in school. So you could call the school and have them come to the main office.
Right. Right.
Instead of interrupting
and it's
them.
another thing we have to talk about too in just this world. You know, as the world changes, our prevention messages have to change. Teaching them appropriate use of social media and cell phones, and when is it appropriate, when is it not.
Yeah.
And, you know, how do you be social without it? Just a whole other piece that...
Oh, my God. You know, someone just told me, and I'll think of who, but when being punished, and this was asked to teenagers, when they were removed from social media, they were relieved.
Yeah. There's
Because
an
they
initial
didn't-
withdrawal, because there is
That's
an
right.
obsession and compulsion.
But they didn't, they could just relax.
I do a
They weren't-
retreat with kids, and they're not allowed to bring their phones. It's just a club that I run, and it's one of the rules that we have. And the anxiety beforehand is tremendous.
Yes.
But once we're there, maybe day one in the evening, they're like, wow, this is great. Like, I don't care what's going on Instagram. Like, I don't care what my friends are Snapchatting right now. I'm having an awesome time in the moment.
In the moment.
And it's just, this is great. At least 6 kids said it to me this year.
And the moment's really
individually.
happening.
That's
It's
right.
not something that you want to portray to the world
right.
as what
Or
you
fabricated.
want your
Right.
moment to be.
Right.
I know Kim Laube on Shelter Island last year, when she collected everyone's phone at 3 o'clock
Right.
on Friday afternoon. Kids are, and
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not
It's very
giving you my
physical.
phone.
It's that physical withdrawal.
It is. It's like a...
But within 15 minutes, when they
Uh-huh.
all started to engage with each other, and on Saturday afternoon during free time, to see teenagers playing Frisbee, playing basketball, playing
Right.
guitar, and listening to one another, and walking and engaging
Yep.
was, and that's what life should be.
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone can remember just, what's the best thing about being a kid? You didn't have to think about anything. You just had to know, I got to be home at 5:30.
Right, and that's
Right.
why
Before
I think
dark.
Lisa's, and I think,
Before dark.
and I think
Right.
that's why Lisa's message is so important, is like teaching them the limits and like, all right, so you can use it, but this is how you use it, and then
Right.
you put it down here, and then parents, I think, are responsible for that limit setting.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, parents need to help with that and take the iPad away and say, we're going to have dinner as a
Right.
family. and we're gonna
Modeling.
Sit down. That's right.
Modeling.
the
Just
appropriate
like
But have
a
a docking center.
Which is what my son always holds me to, because
Yeah.
I tell him to put his iPad down, and then he says, "Well, put your
Right.
phone down." I say,
Right.
My son's 7.
Yeah.
But that's how it has to
He's
be.
7.
Modeling is such a big thing with any kind of prevention message. Is, you know, it's not enough to just say what you want. You have to do it as well.
Exactly.
That's how
That's
we
why,
learn.
we've talked about, and I'm not the alcohol police or anything else. However, when you think about your 3-year-old's birthday party, and in every birthday party after that, if the family members are all having a cocktail, which is not a bad thing to do,
Right.
but in this day and age, a baby can swipe an iPhone, can swipe an iPad, and know what the technology is. So if
Right.
I'm 8 years old and I'm having a bad day at school, maybe I need to come home and dad or mom has a drink, and that makes everything okay
right.
again.
Right. And parents
So
get very
that's-
nervous about this
yeah.
topic because
They do.
right, and they should, because it's something that they should
There's
be
no
mindful of.
criticism or
No, of
judgment, though.
course.
It's just be cognizant
Yes, mindful.
of the message that you're sending.
And
Absolutely.
how you represent alcohol
Yeah.
and what it does for you.
And
You know?
talk about it.
Right.
And talk about it.
So if you do talk about it, so in my house, we talk to my son about, you have to be over the age of 21, that this is something that you can abuse, that you wouldn't get behind the wheel of a car, and you have to bring that up. My 7-year-old gets it.
Yes.
He might not get the whole thing, but he understands that that's something that you drink when you're 21. or older.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that it comes with a
And
responsibility.
there's a responsibility, right.
And as he gets older,
You reinforce it.
and his questions will change.
That's right.
Why does the kids on the football team get to drink then, Dad?
Absolutely.
So if I play football, I can drink? And
Yeah.
I'm going to assume that you're going to have that kind of relationship with him.
It's
Which
unavoidable. Both his parents are in drug treatment. So. I might be terrible.
Lucky
I have,
kid.
to, I have to keep my mouth shut a lot.
But it's a
something
good
is,
thing. It's a good thing that he can feel that he can come to you about
Right.
anything, because you're just his
That's right.
dad. You're not a treatment provider. You're not.
Right.
You're not.
Yeah.
You're his dad who just has a lot of information that
True.
he will hate you for eventually. But
Yeah.
Now and
but
then.
you
Right.
know. So we'll be right back after this message.
this is a good time to tell you. You're doing okay, Mom. I can call you Mom, right? I know we haven't known each other very long, but you seem like a real keeper. You're not perfect. There was that strained carrots incident, but you're trying. You pick up my bottle every time I toss it out of my stroller. That's high comedy to an 8-month-old. You hum the Barber of Seville when you wash my hair. So cool. And your rub-downs are out of this world. Anyway, I want you to know how much I appreciate you. You know, right? How much I love you? You're doing okay, Mom.
Welcome back to Long Island in Crisis, and we are having quite the discussion about quite a few things. You know, and again, any parent that's listening, I'm a parent. I did the best job that I could at the moment in time that I was, as with every human being on this planet. You can always look back and think of what could I have done better. We're trying to help you do better before you move on.
That's right.
So there's so many things that young kids are just bombarded with today. And, you know, when I love when parents say, well, they're only smoking pot and drinking beer, so it's not a big deal. And
Yeah.
do you know, does your kid have a turn-off valve or not have a turn-off valve? And did they move the age of the legality of alcohol consumption to 21 because they wanted to? Because the only industry in the United States that has this right is the car rental people. Age 25,
There
that
you go.
you can rent a car. Because why do they do that, Lisa?
Well, gee, I would imagine it has something to do with decision making and the drinking age being 21, but still adolescents, young people not being able to make appropriate decisions.
Correct.
And they want to keep their cars protected and pedestrians and passengers protected.
Right.
As well.
They know the science of the brain development.
Right,
So
25.
But it's 25 is
That's
the
right.
age where really a human brain is
That's right.
fully developed.
Right.
And you know, I'm sorry.
No,
it's,
go ahead.
It's fairly, it's not simple, but I try and break it down in simple ways so that parents kind of understand. Because it makes sense to say, well, I'm glad they're not doing something worse. And that's
Right.
okay.
And
like, I get that.
I get that.
But the 1 and 1 equals 2. And this is how we preface kind of all of our presentations with LICAT or to parents or family ed in our sessions and whatnot. The 1 and 1 equals 2 is that if you mess with mind and mood altering drugs, your mind and your mood get impacted. So where you might have had a kid who said, oh, I'm only going to smoke pot and I'm only going to do it for high school and I'll quit in college, the minute you put that stuff in your body, you have changed your mind and your mood. So all those plans you made, all those things you had, all the motivation you had, I mean, our brain is our primary instrument. If we don't take care of it, we don't play well.
Yeah.
So put that stuff in your body and you really increase the risk that whether it's another drug, a worse drug, whatever that means, or just another unhealthy decision, the mind and mood altering drug significantly increases risk that something will go wrong.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of how we need to look at
Absolutely.
it. And otherwise, we're greenlighting substance use. Where's the line?
That's a great point. And you're not even talking about just whether or not they're going to become addicted.
Right.
We're talking about just abusing a substance at a time in which there's a lot of things happening, so a lot of things can go wrong, and a lot of risk taking, which means that they might smoke, some weed and then get behind the wheel of a car and then get into a car accident and die that way, and they weren't an addict, but they used a substance and then they made another poor choice, and one led to the other, led to something fatal.
Absolutely.
And we see that all the time.
Or God forbid, you're a young person going out to have a good time, and end up becoming the party, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And now we're getting into trauma and anxiety and other things. And, just there's so many ways it goes wrong beyond addiction. Although, of course, that's the epidemic we're seeing, but we're also seeing co-occurring, trauma and sexual assault. And
oh my goodness.
I mean, there's so many ways that the mind and mood
number of it. And so send your little girl out to a nice party, right? Or boys. But when we talk about, I guess, trauma or sexual trauma, we tend to think of only girls,
right?
But you're absolutely right. It's important.
It's not just girls.
Well. And hence being the hazing and everything else, what boys do to other, which is crazy. But we had that 13-year-old boy on New Year's Eve. What was it, about 5 years ago?
Oh, that he died.
He died walking home.
Right.
Because everybody was having a party and nobody knew where he was.
That's right.
And he drank too much alcohol and he froze to death.
That's right.
So that you can't come back from.
Nope.
Right.
Or a child smoking pot for the first time and with these dabs and the vape pens and everything else, psychotic breaks.
Oh, yeah.
But nobody wants to hear about that. Right. But that's the reality.
Right.
Unfortunately.
And that's the risk. And
that's the risk.
When we're talking about prevention, we don't tell people what to do. But we do make it very clear that all those goals you have, and that's why prevention is always goal-focused. What do you actually want in life? I want to be a doctor. I want to go to school. I want to have a family. Whatever it is. There's so many ways drugs get in the way of that.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately for hundreds of Long Islanders every year, death.
Yeah.
But beyond that,
and
marijuana.
They are the best and the brightest. So let's,
Yeah.
These are kids from all
over.
They're not bad kids.
No.
They're not. They're children of all socio backgrounds. Unfortunately, it doesn't discriminate.
Well, my door is open, and I see all different types of kids: the IB, the AP, the regular students, the athletes, the business kids. They're all in my office, and we're all talking about these decisions and decision making and risk taking behavior, and a lot of that. It changes their potential and where they can go.
Oh, without a doubt.
And you brought up the dabs and the the hash oils and the waxes and stuff. And now we're not just talking about just pot anymore because of the potency of that. And you are seeing a lot of kids now really getting so physically addicted to marijuana.
To marijuana.
I challenge these kids all the time because they don't see it because it's so socially acceptable
in their circle.
Bring them to
Outreach in Brentwood.
I just tell them, just stop for a couple of days and tell me how you feel. Just
stop
don't do
for
it.
One day.
Just don't do it and tell me what you feel like. Are you gonna, have mood swings? Are you gonna be irritable? Can you go to sleep? Can you eat? No, though it's affecting all your daily living.
Right.
So that's my challenge, just to get them to see how much it grabs a hold of them because they don't really see it.
No, they don't.
They don't see it
they're
because
high.
it's socially accepted and their friends are doing it and they're able to do it 3, 4, 5 times a day, and maybe their parent is reluctantly condoning it or not, or looking the other way or not knowing what to do.
Right.
Because
with the disease comes denial.
That's right. And they just
and
don't
fear.
know. And just sometimes when you don't know what to do, you don't do anything. You freeze.
Yeah.
You freeze up. And there's a stigma attached to it, and there's embarrassment. And,
yes.
There's so many times that a parent will call me and they want to stay anonymous for at least a half an hour on the phone with me. Yeah. And that's just stigma. And I play it until eventually they realize I need to meet with their kid in order to really help things,
Right.
and so then they're going to have to let me know what's going on, and they trust you, and then they go that route.
And you're providing a non-judgmental,
That's right.
confidential space for them.
That's right.
You know, part of LICAD's mission
point.
is, at the very least, you know, reduce the stigma. The stigma should be non-existent. There's
It
nothing.
really should.
You know, people who use drugs are not bad people. They make
Right.
bad decisions sometimes, but they're not bad people trying to get good.
They made one bad decision that
Sure.
turned on that disease
Right.
in their body.
We need to view them as sick people trying to get well.
Well, absolutely.
And that will open up the conversation for parents and for communities that this isn't about bad kids, good school districts, bad school districts,
That's right.
communities, good communities, bad. The judgment has to go because it's not helpful and it's not really accurate either. We're talking about a public health crisis. Lots of sick kids not knowing how to take care of themselves.
For the CDC to admit that it is a
Right.
public health
Yeah, it's
crisis.
not my opinion. This
Right.
is
That's right.
So
the
that
American
it has
Psychiatric
to-
Association.
It has
That's
to
right.
meet an awful lot of criteria, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And, you know,
And anywhere you go, I mean, just look in our region. I mean, I go around and talk to different schools and different, it's the same thing.
Right.
yeah.
It doesn't matter where you go.
It doesn't matter where you go. It doesn't, yeah.
You were upstate, and it was the same thing, right? It
It's the
doesn't
same-
matter.
Oh, my good. Well, they have a whole different set
That's right.
of circumstances up there. Not a lot. We have so much to do on Long Island. They don't have a lot to do, so
Right.
they go to drugs and alcohol because that is something to do.
Right.
And treatment is so far apart. But here, we're down here, and there's so much to do, and yet our kids are doing exactly the same thing.
And that's
as
the other
they're
side
doing.
of prevention is if drugs aren't the solution, then what is? You
That's
know,
right.
what not should, because we don't want to should on ourselves, but what
Right.
can we do that's going to be helpful? What can I do that I'm going to
Right.
enjoy that's not going to ruin my life? How do I manage the stress I feel? How do I do how, where can I go? Where are my supports? Who are my supports? And
Everybody
LICAD has
needs a
lots.
go-to person, whether it's in their family, in the school district. I'm sure
Right.
there are a lot of kids that have you as their go-to person
Sure.
in
yeah.
school.
Sure, and then
You know?
and then we link them up with community resources because the reality is I leave at 2:50,
Right.
and that kid might need somebody. We have community resources and partnerships is very
Yes.
important, and that's where it goes bigger than just the school or the individual, right,
Yep.
and the family, and it has to go into the community. It has to be that relationship.
And it does take a
Yes.
village to raise a
It does,
child.
completely.
And
It
to
really
make a
does.
difference.
If I didn't have a partnership like that, I bring them in. It's not that I can present every presentation. You got a different voice. You have a different take on it. That's
Different
important.
perspective.
Right.
A family might go to a presentation in the library and they won't come to a presentation at the school.
Right.
So you got to
Right.
meet them where they're at.
Absolutely.
And
They
some
may
people,
they may go 3
the
towns
church.
over.
I was
too.
going to say, some
3
people don't want
towns
to go
over.
in their town.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
For fear of that
Stigma.
judgment.
That's right.
So even though we're fighting that, we're still accommodating it as well because we want people to get where they need to go.
Yeah.
Good point.
So it's not that it's kind of it's a multi-level process. We want to help the individual. Anthony gets someone who needs treatment. He sends them to us. We help him get into treatment, and we support
That's
the
right.
family. We work with Anthony, and then we coordinate. And then on the meso level, we go to the school and we do a presentation, and we work with. Again, I'm using Anthony as an example because he's great at what he does. But
Yes.
that's how it works. And then we coordinate with you, and we call you, and we say, hey, let's go to Albany next week because we need to change some of the policies around this. Because, the sick kid that I had in yesterday, and not that they're kids. I mean, if they're struggling with this stuff, they're not kids. They're young
Right.
people who
They're
are really
young people who made
struggling.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
So it takes all of us to create
Yes.
change at every level. And,
At the same time, coordinated
the
effort.
same
right?
time.
Same
Yes.
time, and there's so many levels,
That's right.
so treatment has to become more available. But in a perfect world, what age would we start that prevention message?
Kindergarten.
Kindergarten.
As young as they are, and and you just make the message age appropriate because
Right.
this is communication is what prevention, right? Is a cornerstone of prevention.
Yeah.
It's all based on
Yes.
communication skills and having good fluid two-way communication.
Yes.
So we at kindergarten we're talking about making healthy choices, brushing your teeth, self-care, right? And then you just increase it because it just fits into the self-care model.
It does.
Put what you put into your body, healthy foods, and then you talk about drugs and alcohol, and then you talk about anxiety, depression, or other mental health issues and how you take care of yourself that way.
And, I think that young people also, and kindergartners too, it's okay not to, not everything is solved in one day.
That's right.
And
course.
that's okay. Because as long as we're safe and together as a family, we're okay. And we may have to put that problem on the back burner, and it may get solved in 2 or 3 days.
That's right.
And there's no anxiety about it. You're always safe. You're always secure. And too many things, you know, we watch sitcoms and everything's wrapped up in 22 minutes.
That's right.
Right.
Good point.
You know, so that doesn't happen. That certainly doesn't happen in my life. I don't even know where I am half the time 22 minutes later, so.
And we say to start that conversation in kindergarten, but if there's a parent right now listening that has a 7th grader, start it now.
Right.
I'm not saying that.
Meet them where they are right now.
Right now. You know, start it today and then continue on. The beautiful thing about being a parent is you can make active mistakes. You can make, you can miss a cue and then say, you know what, I really should have talked about this a little earlier, and this is how I'm going to make it up because we're a family and this is what we're going to do.
Right.
And that's, you know, that's where they need to go. I tell a lot of my parents because they're like, oh my God, my kid's in 10th grade and I haven't had this, you know, I haven't really done this conversation. All right, well, let's do it now.
Absolutely.
Let's do it now and we'll catch up. And we're just going to have to speed up on this a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. There's never been a perfect cookie cutter way to parent.
That's
you know?
right.
And
No.
I always tell parents too, you're an expert on your kid and your family. You know, I can tell you what's evidence-based and what we see works, but I don't tell parents how to parent, just like I don't tell kids how to be kids.
Right.
But here's suggestions, and here's what we
Just
know
hold
works.
up the mirror.
But listen, you know your family, and you know your kid, and you know what they respond to. So use that as well. And if you make mistakes, that's okay. Mistakes are not failures. And that's a lesson we also want to teach kids, because that's a huge stressor too, that I failed my parent, I failed my school, I failed my therapist, God forbid.
failed myself.
I failed myself. Mistakes aren't failures, so parents can make mistakes, kids can make mistakes. They're not failures. They're just part of the learning process. That's all life is.
You only learn when you make a mistake.
Yeah.
We're going to pick up on that. We'll be right back after this message.
Welcome to the Rehab Center located at 2025 Brentwood Road in Brentwood, New York. At the center, we offer chiropractic services, acupuncture, and physical therapy. We take most major medical, no-fault, and workers' comp insurance. If you need these types of services, contact the offices at 631-234-4949. That's 631-234-4949.
Dad, where do babies come from?
Well, there's Dad's big, shiny rocket ship. That's right, it's filled with babies of all kinds. And when the shiny rocket ship penetrates, Mommy and Dad goes, and when the time is just right, there's a space launch.
All systems go.
Babies of all kinds. Released all over the place. Yeah, Africa. Mommy's Babylandia. That's right, it's filled with babies. After an amazing 9 months, babies. And that, son, is where babies come from.
But Jake said babies come from
Planet Babylandia.
You go, play with us on the bus.
wheels on the bus
Go round and round, round and round, round and round. Wheels on the bus go round and round, all through the town.
Dad, where do babies come from?
Touching under sedation or manipulation under anesthesia is a very gentle, very precise procedure to very slowly release any scar tissue that is formed as a result of a traumatic injury. Many people ask, how does this work? Will I get hurt? Will you stretch me too far? We only stretch the body part to its normal range of motion. After completing the post-MUA rehabilitation program, it's very common that our patients say to us, hey, I can play ball with my kid again. Hey, I can bowl again. Hey, I can enjoy hiking again. This is what makes it rewarding to us as practitioners.
You know you already want a Toyota, but when you want more from your Toyota store, you want Smithtown Toyota, where every Toyota comes with Smithtown Toyota's Toyota for Life program, giving you lifetime New York State inspections, lifetime 10% discounts on all parts and service, 2 years of complimentary oil changes, 2 years of scheduled maintenance, and more, all at no cost to you, plus low clear-out deals on every Toyota in stock. Get more from your Toyota store. Hurry to Smithtown Toyota.
Welcome back to Long Island in Crisis, and Lisa and Anthony and I were just talking about really no judgment on parenting, just some ideas for parenting, because in this world, how we were brought up or how we grew up certainly has changed so dramatically. Meet your kids where they are always and have that kind of open door policy. Very easy to react as a parent, being a parent. Like, oh my God, you want to die inside, but you have to suck it up.
What I tell my parents is physically bite your tongue.
Yes.
Ask the open-ended question and then bite down and just listen. And you have to physically do that, because you're going to, if you start hearing stuff, that's awesome. But if you react, you're going to shut them down.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
And you don't want to shut them down. And then if you do, again, active mistake, and you try again. You try a different method. You try a different technique.
Absolutely.
But you try. I tell them physically biting your tongue. I want to hear that you did this. Bit your tongue, because this is the only way it's going to work. Because then they'll start talking, and it takes kids a little while to get revved up.
Yeah, it does.
To talk to their parent, the authority.
And feed them.
That's right.
That always worked with my kids.
Good
Cookies, ice cream.
Good
point. Give them what they want, and then they.
And you always captivate on those teachable moments. And it doesn't always have to be about them. I mean, you just pick up the paper every day. There's enough on the front of Newsday every single day to make it a teachable moment and say, did you see this? What do you think of this? What's this thing they're talking about, heroin? What does that mean? And see what they know and they don't know.
Right. What's this thing about another car crashing into a building? Do you think that a substance was involved?
Right. And let their brain go, and you don't force your opinion on them. You see where they're at.
Meet them where they are. Exactly. But they're people, so they're entitled to their own ideas and thoughts.
And
that's what you raise them to be.
The purpose isn't to scare them with this. It's to open a dialogue, start a conversation. So we were watching TV the other day, and they said this thing. They used the word heroin. Like, do you know what that is? Like, depending on how old they are, of course.
Right.
But, have you heard that word before? Do you know what that is? And if they don't know, use it as a method to teach, or a time to teach, if they do, find out what they do know, with interest. Approach with curiosity and interest rather than judgment and ridicule.
Yeah.
And being genuine.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Because if it comes off contrived, or if it comes off condescending, or if it comes off, it's going to shut them down.
Yeah.
You have to do it your way.
Yeah.
I have counselors all the time that say, how do you deal with the kids? And I say, I just try and be myself.
Right.
And you have to be yourself. And as long as you're yourself and they get that feeling, they'll stick around you.
Yeah. And
whether you're a little quirky, then they'll like your quirks. If you're a little funny, they'll like your humor.
Right.
That's how it works.
That's it. That's all it is. I love with athletes, and Kim taught me this, for one night of partying negates 2 weeks of peak performance training.
I believe it.
So that, to a high school student trying to be a JV or trying to be on varsity or trying to be there, that's a great, just a little information.
Right.
Yeah. And I would love to see school districts really come on board with having student athletes sign a contract. And I would love to see coaches having a zero tolerance.
I have a
zero tolerance.
I have one step further. Something that I've been pitching is to have all your co-curricular athletes submit a drug test, a drug screening. They could do it with their parent. They have to go for a physical. Why not include a drug screening with that physical? And if their parent decides not to put it in because they want to handle it, that's their. The kid can't play though unless they hand it in, and it has to be clean. And it would go for all co-curricular activities. You couldn't, like clubs, activities.
Club.
And I don't want to not allow them to use those, because those are the things that they're interested to fill the void in. But maybe we make a deal and we say, okay, this came up. That can you offer it's an opportunity for us to do an intervention. It's
Right.
an opportunity for us to maybe say, hey, go to those classes at LICAT, and if you complete them and we get a completion, you can continue to play it. So it's contingent upon attending this program.
Right. And we
But I
already do
think
that for some
instead of-
schools.
Instead
That's
of
great.
doing it just for clubs, they have to pass. They have to go to the doctor every other year. Why not just make that part of the physical?
I would love it. And some people
there's
would
nothing
feel,
wrong with that.
Some people
Right.
feel like it's intrusive, and that's why I said, well, you don't have to share. If you get a positive, then at least the parent gets it,
Right.
and they have to then do something with it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And then it's not on the parent to tell the kid, I'm drug testing you. It's like, it's school policy. We got to do this. That's how it
Right.
works.
That's it,
So we're kind of sharing the responsibility of this.
without a doubt, and that's a great idea. And I think that should just be across the board. But there are parents, and I hear from school administrators that unless a parent has videotape of something actually occurring,
Right.
that's not my son or daughter's paraphernalia, that's not their drugs, that's not anything, why do you hate my kid?
And that does happen a lot. And there's a lot of that denial. And there's a lot of that defensiveness. And we got to get around that. We got to work towards. We got to remove that. And that's the only reason why I put it in there as a policy is it's just like ahead of the game.
Yeah.
So you know it's coming.
Right.
It's fall sports. I'm the kid. If I have some control over myself, I'm going to go, you know what? I know in 2 months I got to do this physical.
Right.
Let me
Right.
curb myself. So maybe we're not stopping all drug and alcohol, but we're getting kids to think about what are they doing.
Think about the
Their
consequence
decisions,
Yes.
their decisions and what's
of,
going on.
of their decision.
That's
and
right.
if they decide,
That's right.
I'm not going to play a sport anyway, but if you make it for every kid, then every kid has to go
Universal.
through
It's
it.
a great point. I just was always,
know.
I'm always looking for
You'll have
these-
kids say, I don't want to be in that club anymore.
Right. Well, that's the downside to it that I don't
Yeah.
want to lose because so that we'd have to find a way to entice them. And like in Northport, when we suspend students that actually get caught with drugs or alcohol, we make them a deal. So the school district, we created a policy where they get suspended, let's say, for 6 months, but if they do drug treatment, they give us some clean drug tests, they return in 3 months. They have to see me. So we have all these deals so that way
So it's not an absolute.
there's not an absolute there. It's,
And there
it's a
shouldn't
carrot
be.
on a
Yeah.
stick.
Yep.
And then we're trying to do is we're really just trying to create an intervention. And then I talk to the parent, and then we talk to the student, and now we engage the parent. We say, there's great services out in the community. Why don't you take advantage of these services? And now we're starting this process of getting them help, hopefully early enough
Do
on.
parents see, though, that you're trying to help them or hurt them?
I mean, I think initially no parent wants to go through getting that phone call from the school that says your kid was just, found with this substance on them. So I think the initial reaction is to be defensive and to protect your kid.
Yeah.
And I think that
You
we
get
have to
that as a
we have to
parent.
respect that.
Right.
And our administration has grown a very thick skin to probably getting the brunt of it. I have the beautiful job of swooping in after that conversation already happened. So then I come in and I kick the administrators out and I say, all right, let's talk about how we can help you.
Right.
And so I really get to come in at a really opportunistic time. So the parents
You
more
should be the good guy, though.
the parents more
Somebody
like
needs to be the good guy.
yeah. So the parents more like willing to talk to me at that point in time. Like, oh my God, I'm so scared. My kid's going to get in so much trouble. Don't worry about it. This is how it goes. Here's some numbers. Call these people now. Before you have the superintendent's conference, you should already have a phone call in. This is going to look really good, blah, blah, blah. And we go through the whole process. And then I introduce myself to their kid. And then that gets us in there. And then there's a certain information that I do not share with the school, and we have that mutual agreement that it's confidential unless, I'm not going to sit there and the parent's going to tell me everything and then I'm going to go back and tell the school everything.
Right.
That
That's
won't
important.
work.
But that won't work.
That won't
And
work.
it's really none of their business. You're handling
But
it.
the
right?
school administration has empowered me to
Yeah,
continue
which is
to do
really-
that. They don't
That's
ask no
awesome.
questions. They just back off. And,
Anthony's got it.
And I express, what I do have to report and what I don't have to report up front, so they're comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also then refer out to a community organization so they can have even yet more confidentiality,
Right.
more privacy,
Right.
more ability to feel like there's a removal, which is necessary.
Without a doubt.
Well, I would not meet with the kid in that situation. We're always making a referral out, and then I'm like the second person. I'm like the connection to the school, and then they're the connection into the community, and I'm like the middle guy for that.
I think it's important too to identify that when there is pushback from parents or kids, it's really all out of fear. It's not because they want the school
right.
to
Yeah.
be in trouble or the kid. Like, it's scary. Just the thought that my kid might be on something, or that this is such an issue that is real, and that's terrifying. So it's important for schools and for us, you know, in the field to understand that parents are pushing back because they're scared.
Right.
And if we can process that and give them an opportunity to meet with someone like Anthony in this school and say, listen, this isn't a punishment. This is just us looking out for you. And you know what? Earlier the better, right? So letting them know why we do it and that it's not a punishment, that their kid's not a bad kid, that they're not bad parents.
Just made a mistake.
Just lift that mask up, that I don't want this stuff that is so natural and normal. If we can lift that barrier and just kind of engage them in the process rather than just force things on them, I think that's really important too, just to kind of break those walls down a little.
Parents see their kids, I don't care at what age, as, you know, my youngest son has just turned 22.
Yeah.
I still see that little baby face on top of this 6'3" man, you know, but he's still, you know, you just don't expect it. You don't. And parents are tough on themselves. What did I do wrong? Well, it really has nothing to do with you.
You nailed it. That's it. They personalize that.
They do.
That mistake, that decision as their mistake and their decision. I didn't do enough. I did too much. I'm guilty.
You know,
so that's that.
I think then what they need to hear is if your child had diabetes or if your child fell and broke their leg in a soccer game, would you blame yourself for that? Of course not.
Right.
So it's just, again, something that happens. They're predisposed to it.
Right.
Or they just don't have that turn-off switch. And it's nothing you did or didn't do, but now we can do something. So let it go.
And it
doesn't matter, and don't let it hold you back, and don't let it give you anxiety that you have to go home and do something for it.
It's the trickiest balance between protecting your kid and teaching them how to protect themselves. So, you know, doing for them so that you can take care of them and teaching them to do for themselves. I mean, that's the trickiest balance that we're in. And when it comes to substance use, those boundaries get so mixed together.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
That, you know, you're not quite sure if they're protecting them or hurting them because it's every instinct you have as a parent is to protect them, and every instinct you have to protect them is like the antithesis of what you need to do to help them with substance use.
Absolutely.
Look at the definition of enabling, right? The definition of enable is a positive definition.
Yeah.
And so we use it in this context. We use it as not helping or as a negative.
I tell parents the easiest way to know you're enabling is if your child with the problem is happy with you and happy with your decisions, you're the biggest enabler going. Yeah. When they're pissed off at you and got something to say, you're doing the best job that you could possibly be doing because you're not.
And that's
and
the
that's
hardest.
Also, that's the hardest because all you want is your kids' love and gratifying. And in that teenage realm, in that young adult realm,
they hate you for
looking
at them the wrong way anyway.
And
so
I think
really,
a lot of my parents get stuck in that, and they say, not another fight. So I'm going to avoid this conversation because I don't want to have another. I don't want to be called another this or have another this or another door slammed in my face. So parents almost like pick and choose the wrong battles.
Right.
A lot of time.
Actually, right after this message, we'll go into what I think is a good help for any parent. We'll be right back after this message.
What are you looking for? You don't even know that. Are you on the ball list? You can't even answer. I'm asking you about it. You gotta be highly skilled. You understand that?
Are you sick?
Are you well versed there? Are you very smart man? Hit me with some funny shit.
My shit's twisted.
Tell me something.
What do you have right there?
That's awesome.
Well,
that's a big.
That's nice. You know damn well.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Sir. Are you interested in twisted talent?
Yes, I am. Sure. See, you got twisted.
That's talent. You see what I'm saying? You understand me? And if you can't whip out answers like that, that man is liable to go to commercial break, punch your fucking mouth loose. You understand me? Time is up, sir. You understand me? You're on. You're the man. All right, give me your name now. I'm sorry.
My name is Willie.
Willie, where you working at?
We are twisted. We are awesome. Awesome. Love it.
Can you repeat that question again?
Galaxy Luxury Coach is a full-service limousine and party bus company. Family-owned and operated, we are an industry leader with over 25 years of experience in providing best-in-class luxury transportation for your special event. Whether it's your precious wedding day, an all-day wine tour out east, your high school prom, that special birthday, or just an amazing night on the town, our professional chauffeurs stand ready to ensure your special event is truly special. Galaxy Luxury Coach has one of the largest and modern party bus fleets in the New York area. Our party buses are simply nightclubs on wheels. Concert sound systems, light shows, lasers and strobes, multicolor LED lighting brilliantly lights your party bus inside and out. For corporate and more laid-back events, we will cater to your specific needs and requests. What sets Galaxy aside from all others in the luxury transportation industry is our attention to detail in customizing our services to your special event. At Galaxy, it's all about you and your guests. Galaxy customers return time and time again because they know they can trust Galaxy to help deliver those lifetime memorable moments. Step aboard and let your Galaxy experience begin.
For professional motorcycle transport and towing, think Kickstart Fabrications Motorcycle Towing. Proudly serving all of Long Island, we feature expert handling and 24/7 service. So send a limo for your toy with Kickstart Fabrications Motorcycle Towing.
Welcome back to Long Island in Crisis. So, where we left off, I happen to think that contracts work great. Because if it's written down and everyone's discussed it, what the consequence will be to certain behaviors and what the rewards will be for behavior, there's no ambiguity because there's a lot of, well, you didn't really ever say that. That's right. And you can't go back to the videotape in life.
And I think when you set up a contract, and I've set up a lot of contracts, and I'm a big proponent of setting up contracts, is it does a lot of things. First of all, it forces you to think about what are the things that I want to address. Mm-hmm. And let me operationalize those behaviors. It's not just be good.
Right.
It's exactly this behavior. Be in on time at 10:30 during the week. It's to, use proper language when we're talking. It's very specific behaviors that we're trying to target. So that way there is no ambiguity. There is no, oh, I didn't really do that. I was good. You didn't think I was good?
Right.
So it forces you to think that way.
You didn't say I couldn't do that.
Right.
Right.
Right. It forces communication.
Yes.
You're sitting down at the table because when you do a contract, you want to sit down and do it together. Even though the parent's the lead player, the kid should be involved in sitting down and listening and trying to negotiate maybe their privilege or maybe what they want out of it or their time, and then it's teaching the kid a little bit of some communication skills.
Absolutely.
How to negotiate.
Negotiation
That's right.
skills.
It's huge.
And those are important.
Which is right down our alley of prevention, communication. It fits right into that whole thing. It teaches the family to come to an agreement and then come to a binding agreement. And like you said, then it's written down before the crises. Because what happens is the crisis happens, and then the parent says maybe a couple of choice things they didn't mean to say, and then they feel bad, or the kid says things, and the next thing you know, everybody goes to their rooms, and then tomorrow morning happens, and there was never a consequence for the behavior, and it was never addressed.
Right. Right, and no matter what's going on in their life, it could be the biggest party of the year.
That's right.
If this happened, and that's the consequence, it's going to hurt you so much to be in that space as a parent.
Right.
And it really helps with what's one of the most important things, and one of the things that young people want that they don't say they want, but they want desperately, which is consistency.
That's right.
That every time this happens, this will also happen. If this, then this.
They like feeling secure.
Yes.
They love being wrapped up in that love,
black
and that's
white.
love.
Right.
That's
Otherwise, it's,
pure
last
love.
week I came home at 10 and I didn't get in trouble, and this week I came home at 10, I did get in trouble, so what do you want from me?
Right.
And then the parent's frustrated and the kid's frustrated, and then nothing gets solved, and nobody knows what's expected of either one.
Correct.
So the contract isn't just good with parents getting what they want, what type of behavior they want, but also clarifying with the young person what it is they're expected to do.
Huge.
And
what will happen.
To so many less fights. I had a contract with, my son was a wrestler, my youngest son. In 8th grade, he was on varsity. A lot of expectations there, but in 9th grade, his grades went right down the toilet. And I'm driving home, and I'm going to kill him. because that's what else would I do?
That's right.
And then I said, oh, and I drew up a contract about homework, about expectations. If you need help, I'll get you a tutor. I'll do everything that I was do, and everything he was responsible for. And if you take care of this, you'll play sports. And I can still picture him. You can't. I go, what am I doing to you? Well, you can't. And we signed it. And every back to school night, and the teacher would say, I go, you don't have to, there's only one thing that you have to say. Andrew, your contract. And he'd be like, oh my God.
And it worked?
And it worked.
And it's important that it's manageable too, though, that that they're realistic expectations, that they're promoting rewards too, not just these are all the bad things that are going to happen to you if you don't do what I want. That's authoritarian, and we don't want that either.
No. Right.
So it has to also involve things that the young person wants, like, oh, you want to, go on a trip for your senior year? Well, these are all the things we need to see this year. Or, oh, you want to, get your license, or you want to, whatever it is. You want this toy at Christmas?
Be responsible with the car.
Right.
You want the toy for Christmas, but, all of these things, it's just, you need to save so much money.
Right.
Not so much money, and if you're $1 short, I'll chip in.
Right.
It's just all of those things have to happen at the same time.
Right.
For,
and that's prevention. That's goal setting. This is my goal. Right. These are the steps I need to get there. It's manageable. It's in real time. It's not like, well, I'm 7 years old and I really want to go to college one day.
Right.
It's got to be, appropriate for the age and realistic and set in a specific time and renegotiable in a certain amount of time.
You got to definitely renegotiate it. And if they're doing well, how great is it for them to renegotiate their privileges?
Right.
So now you don't have to just renegotiate consequences or different behaviors to target if you eliminate a behavior, because you always want to update that contract. But how great is it if that kid's doing their thing and then they come back to the table and they're like, all right, so like I had out till 10:30, I want to go out till 11 now.
Right.
And they've earned it because they put in the work. They've met the requirement. And then the parent's like, okay, I can negotiate that. But you know what? I'm going to come back to you. If you go out till 11, I want a plan and I want a phone call at 10:30 to know where you're at in that plan. And then there's all this now, this dialogue going on.
It also is a cause for celebration.
That's right.
And we don't celebrate.
Excellent
Families
point.
don't celebrate, mom and dad or
right.
just mom or just dad. You know what? I just wanted to let you know we're going out to dinner tonight. Everybody get in the car because you did this, and I'm so proud of you.
Huge.
What kid doesn't want to hear that?
Huge.
It's a great point. We will make the biggest deal out of what they did wrong, but we won't make the biggest deal out of what they did right.
And
We'll say, well, you're expected to do that.
Right. But no, who
right.
at work doesn't want to hear,
That's right.
hey, great job.
That's right.
We're proud of you. We're looking, who doesn't want to feel that?
It may be expected, but it doesn't matter. You still want to tell people how great they're doing.
They just want to hear, good job.
Right.
Good job.
And then it reinforces the behavior that you want.
I'm proud of you. I love you. You're working so hard.
Yeah.
I know this wasn't easy for you. All those things. Validate them.
Yes.
And whether it's little or small, it doesn't matter if you think it's easy or not easy.
The littlest celebrations, the craziest kind of celebrations, just makes them love their family life that much more.
Yeah.
We used to do backwards
And
dinner
it's
night on
self-esteem,
Friday nights. We're eating ice cream for dinner. We're eating ice cream for dinner. We're shutting out all the lights, and we're going to watch a movie.
I'm coming next time.
Yeah. But, it's just fun things that come out of left field that they say, oh, my parents are not dweebs after all.
Right. They do some
Well,
cool
my
things.
parents are so dorky, but I love them.
What would be your last closing statement? Because we're actually wrapping up.
All right, so we talked a lot about parents having this conversation. If they don't know what to talk about, reach out to your community resources, places like
CombatHeroin.ny.gov.
Damn, I was just gonna say that. There's a nice parent toolkit at CombatHeroin.ny.gov.
LICAD, Mineola, Ronkonkoma.
Holbrook now.
Holbrook now.
But we go all across Long Island. I mean, we're truly bi-county.
And you can reach out to me on my Facebook page, on anything. I can get you Anthony and Lisa's contact information, but combatheroin.ny.gov.
That's right.
So much information that the state will send to you for free. I hope that if there's one person that got something out of this show tonight, then we've done a great job. But There's so many resources open. You're not alone. No one is alone in this fight. So have a great week. We'll see you next Tuesday evening. Thank you.
Another dark hotel room, musty